Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Code with Italians. Today we have a brand new guest. Hi, Marina. Welcome.
Thank you. Hello, everyone.
Thank you for being with us. Why don't you introduce yourself?
All right. So, hi, everyone. My name is Marina Coelho. This is the pronunciation. Many people ask me how to pronounce my last name. It's Brazilian. I'm Brazilian. And I'm a developer relations engineer on the Firebase team. And I mainly do Firebase stuff on Android apps. So that's what I do. I just test all possible Firebase services on Android apps.
Cool. And today we're going to be talking about A/B testing and remote config, right?
Yeah.
Great. I'm sure Ivan is super excited about it because it's one of his favorite topics.
I'm a huge fan.
Ivan, take it away. Do your thing, and then we can get started with testing all the things.
Yes. So welcome, everybody, and thank you for the support. Today is a very nice episode for me because I love this stuff, and differently from other episodes where we do graphics, I actually understand things. Gracias, Mark, para comprar el Ivano token.
How do you say token in Spanish, Ivan? Don't cheat.
I don't know. I can host plata. Plata, maybe, I don't know.
Una moneda, maybe?
Moneda, maybe moneda. El Ivano, la moneda del Ivano.
So Marina, before you start thinking we just went insane, one of the things that people can do is they can redeem Italian points, just like the longer they watch the stream, and they can choose things. They can make even speak Spanish for a bit. They can ask us to name variables or classes in code in a certain way. We are under no obligation to do it, but we try to because it's generally fun, especially when you get back to the code like 6 months later, like, what the fuck is this?
Why this variable is called Mark Ellison rules the world and things like that, right? Jokes aside, thank you for being with us. I just want to remind you that if you have an Amazon Prime subscription, you can connect it to your Twitch account and you can subscribe for free to one Twitch channel every month. You can choose us, so you can support us sending around the stickers that we have and then that we give away for free during the episodes. You can support us buying our swag. There is a medal pin that just landed. I also had a keychain. My toddler just stole it because the angry pizza, nobody can resist to the angry pizza, and they start to say, oh, daddy, 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 or actually he says papa.
I'm gonna get one.
Yeah, well, I have like a gazillion of them, but there was one on the desk. So if you want to support us, you can check our merch website. We also have a coffee subscription if you want to support us on a monthly basis or a one-shot. Shout out to our, look at that thing, it's beautiful. Our huge supporter, Mark Ellison and Luca Tudor, and the others that support us since the beginning. And let's go. So just to give you an idea, I love remote config. That's it. Just welcome to my hill. Everything should be A/B tested and driven from the back end. Welcome to my hill. I just actually replied to something similar because Aurelio just made me notice this morning. Somebody was on the Italian Android community was asking, how do you store an API key securely in your app? Somebody was suggesting DexGuard and things like that, encryption and shit. And I was like, I just put them in remote config and that's it. Nothing is in the app. You ship everything from the backend. And if you need to kill an API key because something bad happened, you don't have to release a new app. You just change the thing, the user refresh the config, and I was like, I love it. This is the kind of stuff that I really like. So I'm a huge fan. Please.
Wow. I mean, am I even needed here? I guess we can
No.
let Ivan lead.
No, don't take it that way. I mean, I'm just a noob.
It's a compliment. It's a compliment.
Yes,
I love that you give this feedback. I love it.
I love it, and I understand, but I need you here because I want to know more. So you're super welcome. And yeah, Sebastiano. So where do we want to start? Do we have like we have a Slido with the questions? If you have questions,
yes, the link for the Slido is in the chat. We're gonna keep posting it every now and then, but yeah, you have it again now. And if you have any questions during the episode, please just put them there and we'll get to them as soon as we can. I know that Marina has a project that she wanted to work on and that she prepared for today. So Marina, just let me know whenever you if you wanna start explaining what remote config is, if you want to share the screen while doing that, just let me know.
Yeah, so let's first maybe start talking about remote config A/B testing, like something that we make possible with remote config and A/B testing, and then maybe we can dive into the code and do the whole flow from like creating the project and creating the pairs of keys and values of remote config, adding to the code, and then actually testing it and creating the experiment. Does that sound okay? All right. So for those who don't know, Firebase is an app development platform that helps developers to build and grow their applications. It doesn't matter what kind of application it is, because we have support to Android, Apple's platforms like iOS, Mac, Flutter, C++, Unity. So yeah, we want to help developers succeed when they're building and growing their applications. And one of the services that we had is called Remote Configuration, which is a service that is meant to help users, developers, to change the behavior and appearance of the applications remotely. So you don't have to ask your users to do an update of your app version if you already configured your code base to react to these parameters configured in remote config. You can just change these parameters values and you're acting based on the user's hands. The user is not aware of any updates or any new app versions. So this is the main thing that remote config does. But the key is, what does it enable developers to do, right? Because theoretically it sounds great, but okay, what can I do with it? So I'm going to tell like from a very personal experience, because that was the first time I used remote config even before I joined Firebase team, like years before. It was for a featured toggle. So basically, we didn't want to risk releasing this feature for 100% of our user base all at once, because chances are we are humans, we make mistakes, and we probably broke something. And guess what? We did. But yeah, back there, we were like, okay, we cannot risk something that's that big to 100% of our user base. So how can we avoid breaking stuff? So we created a remote config parameter that was Boolean, that was just false, right? Like, does this feature exist? No. And then there's one thing you can do with remote config, that for each time you change the value, so we wanted to change it to true so we could show the feature to our user base, we can attach like conditional values. We can attach some conditions to it. So to avoid breaking to our user base, we did staged rollout. So we tied that true value to only 10% randomly of our user base. And then from there, we saw that it wasn't that okay, because Crashlytics started to pop out like crazy. And everyone started receiving emails. So we were like, yeah, let's just maybe roll back to false again and check Crashlytics, which, by the way, it's another Firebase project. And then we fixed it and then shipped. And again, 10%, then 20%, then 50%, and then the whole user base had access to the feature. So yeah, that was my first experience with remote config. I'm curious, do you remember, like Sebastiano, Ivan, what was your first experience with remote config? If you ever, well, Ivan, I know you did, but.
I mean, Ivan, you can start if you want.
No, but jokes aside, it was similar to yours. We were doing feature flags. So the way I introduced it, because from a Firebase point of view, we always had Crashlytics. Well, before the whole history, but the idea that we started with that, and then I jumped on remote config. The first company that they were using it for like a feature flag, but there was a lot of config there because you can even throw JSON at it. So they were doing more like a backend driven kind of thing, a bit more intense, and they were doing A/B tests. But that was already there when I joined. So when I joined the next team, basically, I wanted to introduce remote config, and the step to the door was feature flags. In a way to implement basically trunk based development, right? So you feature flag everything, and then you do either stage rollout, or my sales pitch was releasing at the same time with iOS. So like synchronizing releases, that it's incredibly tricky to time. If you want to do it with Play Store and App Store. So that was my selling point. And yeah, but that was the first one, mainly feature flags.
Great.
For me, I'm trying to think, because I used feature flags as well in the past. I don't think it was using remote config. I think it was using the tag manager in Google Analytics, because this was probably before remote config was a thing. I'm not sure. One thing that I know, in one of the projects I worked in, they wanted to use it, but they didn't use it yet while I was still there. But they wanted to use it to have values, sort of like what Ivan was saying for API keys, but just changing the endpoints based on certain conditions. So you would hit a different server, for example, so they could gradually roll out user base, moving from, say, an older server to a newer version. Well, a newer deployment of the same server obviously had to be consistent. I don't remember if you could have values in the conditions, like the country or something like that.
Yep.
Yeah, I seem to remember it was also like country related, so starting with, like, I don't know, Australian and going in order, like in alphabetical order. I don't know.
Yeah, it's the conditional values by country is one that I like a lot too, because imagine you have like a traveling app, and every time someone uses this traveling app, like let's say I'm using, or a map app, and you just change cities or change countries, and you open it and you want to give this big like welcome to Italy thing. So how would you know that, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you customize by country, if you get the locator and you can customize, let's say, the URL of the image that's going to show up on the homepage based on the country that the person is, you can just make a way more personalized experience to that user, which is, in my opinion, a great user experience.
And you can also have features that are geolocked, for example, because of like local regulations. Some features are only available in some countries, so that's also where you can do it by turning off the things depending on the country the user is in.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Well, eventually I'm going to show the console and we can go over the other conditional values that there are there, because there are just too many for me to remember right now, even though I'm trying to keep a list of things that I would like to say here. So yeah, so that's remote config. And one of the things that having remote config on the app allows us to do is doing A/B testing experiments with remote config flags. So we can configure experiments based on variants of the same parameter. Like I want this percent of users to receive this variant of my remote configuration, and this percentage to receive this one. And I'm going to define how I'm going to measure who's the winner. Because you have to tell, right? You have to tell A/B tester. You have to tell the experiment what's going to define a winner. We're going to see that in a moment. And that's what remote config and A/B test allows you to do when you combine them both together. Like you just create experiment with different variants of the configs you have in remote config, and then you define an objective, and then you measure who is the winner, which basically is the most optimal experience to your users. And that's the goal of using these two services together. And that's what I would like to show today. So I think now we can dive into the code.
Sure. Should I share the screen?
Yep, please.
Let's go. Okay. Hey, I see myself. Hey.
Okay, let me change that. Okay.
No, our super secret Skype call.
Wow.
Skype.
Yeah, now, as always, folks, you know what to blame if things don't work. It's always Skype.
Well, there is also the fair bit is also to say that Skype is the only tool that allows us to do this shit. And if you think about that, it's like,
it's sad.
Okay, it's 2023. If you want to run this kind of show, you need Skype or Microsoft Teams. But we are not that brave. Please.
So this app, it's available on the, I don't know if I can type, well, I don't have the Twitch open, but I can send it after. This app is available under Firebase Extended repository on GitHub. And it's basically Firebase Extended /make-it-so-android. So make it so Android, because it's the name of the app. And it's an Android app built with Compose for the UI and using a few of Firebase services. So it has Firestore and authentication. It's just a to-do list, right? So we can create items here. Now I can check this because that's what I'm doing right now. And that's basically it. And what I chose to use remote config for here is I have this menu and I can edit tasks. Like it retrieves the information that is already there and I can update and save it. But I was thinking, okay, I think maybe it's not that obvious to users that I need to do this and then edit the task. So is there a way to make it clear that I can edit these items, maybe by adding an edit icon, like right here? You can see where my cursor is, right?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So the code is commented, like it doesn't exist right now, but I worked a little bit on it. So let's just do it together. One question though, do you think it would be helpful for developers if we went through the process of creating the Firebase project and adding it, like showing how to create from the scratch, or should we go straight to the remote config part? Yeah, go ahead.
Just to remind you, Sebastiano, we have a tutorial on YouTube to how to integrate Crashlytics in an app. So in our library, Code with Italian library, we already have like how to set up a project. So you feel free to skip it because we already have that. So you are free to focus on remote config if you want.
Okay, perfect. So let me show the console then. I created this project called Make It So Coding with Italians. And let's go to the remote config console. Well, I created it here, but I'm going to delete and create again just so we can do it together, right? Okay, So this is the remote config dashboard in Firebase console. And so let's create our first configuration. So again, what I want to do with this application right here is to tell whether there is an edit icon right here or not. And let me open. Okay, so this is the name I created, just so it's matching. So this is the screen that you see when you want to create the first Firebase configuration. Sorry, the remote configuration. I'm going to call it has edit icon. And it's going to be a Boolean, right? Because it's just going to tell me if there is an icon in each one of the items or not. There are also other things that you can configure here. So you can add any type of information in a key.
You can put an arbitrary JSON there. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, the JSON thing is
exactly.
it's serious.
Yeah,
but that was one of the keys, because then with the conditionals that we can see later, it gets very powerful.
Yes, you can use JSON. One very popular use case for JSONs is when you want to configure different difficulty phases on games. So you have a lot of information to configure how difficult it's going to be for that gamer. Okay, so in this case, it's a Boolean. So this key shows if we should display the edit icon on each task item. Just a quick description. It's helpful, I mean, it's not mandatory, but it's definitely helpful if you plan to use remote config for many different use cases, so you won't get lost eventually on all the keys. Yeah. And if I'm speaking too fast or not giving time to anyone to say
fine for me, but
okay.
Yeah.
You can define a default value in case you're not going to assign any new values right now, but you can have an in-app default, which you're going to define on your Android project, and it's going to help you if you don't get to immediately connect to the backend. So it has a default value that it can use while it doesn't fetch and activate the values on the backend. I personally like to always have my default values on the Android project. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to use this one. And later on, when we move back to Android Studio, I'm going to show how we set up an XML file that has this information. Okay, so now we have our first key. I'm going to publish this. And for now, that's it. But before we go there, let me show you what I was talking about, conditional values. So let's say we wanted to do the rollout thing I was saying before. So rollout to 10% of user base. So we would make this value apply for, where is it? User in random percentage, and then we would define the percentage of users that would receive this value. So this would be a rollout. Other type of conditional values by app. So right now, I only have registered an Android app inside my Firebase project, but if you're having iOS apps, web apps, all register under the same Firebase project, you can also change for these apps specifically.
Yeah, we were doing it because we also were using it on iOS. So this was one of those things, that we actually were able to bend the iOS team to use Google product. How dare you? But at some point, product was like, this thing is cool, so just put it in and shut up. So it was one of those victories for the Android people, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so you can do that by selecting an app here. You can also select a specific version of your application or build number, which in my case is not available because I haven't published different versions of this app. Same for the first open. And you can filter by platform. So there are 3 platforms available. This is nice if you want to drive user adoption on one specific platform. So one use case, let's say developers, it's like a app for selling, I don't know, clothes or something. And people on iOS or Android, people on Android are not that engaging as iOS, are not buying much stuff. We could, for example, create a parameter that would be the amount of discount that you can give on clothes and apply more discount to your Android users and iOS users, because you noticed that Android users are not buying too much and you want to drive Android adoption. So you offer more discount on products for Android and iOS. That's one possible use case. So you can also filter by languages, country, which is what we were speaking before. You can use audiences that you create with analytics. So it's very important when you're creating the Firebase project, it asks you if you want to enable or disable analytics for your Firebase project. And if you're planning on using remote config, I definitely recommend enabling analytics audiences, because it can help you in this moment right here. This is for staged rollout as we saw. You can also filter by date and time that the person requested these values from the backend and a specific installation ID. So these are all different conditions that you can tie to your parameters. And as you can see, there are just a lot. You can be very creative with the use cases that you can have here.
Can I ask you something before we move to Studio 1 sec? So
Absolutely.
One thing you did earlier, you published the changes we did. Can you cover that briefly? Explain what that means, what it is?
Oh yeah. So if you do not publish the changes that you made, and keep in mind, every time you add, now the key is published, but every time I add a new value or change the value, I need to do the same thing. So if I am to publish a new value right now and save it, if I click save but I don't publish it, then this value is not available for my apps. I need to publish it in order for the people who are using the app to fetch these from the backend. If it's not published, it's not available for any app in that Firebase project.
I am not asking this because I have done this mistake several times in the past.
Well, I would never think.
Why this thing doesn't load? Why it's
Yes,
not working?
yes, and then you go back to the console. It's like, oh fuck, I'm an idiot. That's why.
Yeah.
There is also an orange thing that says.
It didn't used to. It didn't used to. Back in the day, back in my days.
Yeah, UX is hard.
You see, maybe that it was because of feedback from people like you that we decided to do that orange thing, because we realized the orange thing is very warning-like. Yeah.
Sebastiano was the angry old man yelling at cloud, literally. That it doesn't work.
Filing tickets.
Yes.
Yeah.
Why is this not working? And then someone in the Firebase team is like, oh no, it's that guy again.
Yeah. And they yelled at you, okay, boomer.
They're all too nice for that. They probably just thought it.
To be honest, I feel a little
Thank you
boomer.
for the sub, Carmen.
So it failed for me. I couldn't hear what you said. Sorry.
Oh no, sorry. I was saying thank you, one of the subscribers in the chat. Sorry.
Oh, okay. All right. So let's go back to Android Studio. Okay, so now I have a key that I can fetch to make the changes on my code, but now we need to prepare the code as well. So
Can I ask you to make the editor font a bit bigger? Because it's hard to read for people otherwise.
Yeah. If you remind me how I do that, because it's pages.
You do file, then there should be preferences, ID preferences, something, I don't know. It's comma, command comma is the easy way. I just always use the shortcut.
Command comma?
Yeah. And then you go to editor, and then editor font.
Okay. Font.
And then, yeah, make it like 20-ish. Not 200.
Big. Like this.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. Let me make it smaller. Oh Jesus, this emulator is just giant. Let me change for the smaller one.
Okay.
Oh wow, much smaller. Oh yeah.
That was too fast.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you see. Oh, now it's building. That's because it was already open.
Okay.
Okay, but now it's built. Also, and by the way, this is a different app in a different emulator. That's why it's not checked. I did create the same item in both apps. Okay, so the first thing that we need to do here is to configure our application to load. Well, there are a few configurations that we can change on remote config before we actually fetch and activate the parameters. So the first thing that we do is this. This is the configurations. Let me start actually by Splash View model. So this is the first view model that is called in this application that it's started. So what we need to do first is to call the configuration service, and which is a service that I created, and fetch the configurations so the values will become available to all the screens from now on, right? It should be the first thing that you do when you open your app. I'm not going to cover this right now because it's a different stuff and it's for A/B testing. But the first thing we do as soon as the app is launched is fetch the configuration. Okay. So this is the service. And as soon as the service is initialized, I want to configure my remote config object. So when I fetch when I run this fetch right here, it's already configured with the things that I want. And the first thing that I want to configure is the minimum fetch interval in seconds, which is what I'm doing right here. And this is very important to remind everyone to do this inside this if condition right here, because this is needed when we are in debug and testing phase, because we want to test real time what's happening, right? I want to test my code is working, so I want to be able to fetch the new value right now to make sure it's applying correctly to my application. That's why I want this minimum fetch interval to be 0. But it's highly not recommended to do that in production, because you're going to be hitting the API all the time if you do that. And there is actually a limit. I don't remember how many times you can fetch per day. It's in the official documentation. I can dig that after. But there is a limit of the amount of fetches that you can do in one day, and if you exceed that, you're gonna receive an exception. So you're gonna have to deal with that. So in order for us to test the following steps, I added this. But if you were to do so in your app, make sure to wrap it inside the build config debug condition. And the next thing is to set the default values. As I was saying before, when you configured that parameter, that I was going to use a local default for my keys. So this is how the XML file should look like for defaults. So it has all the defaults, and for each entry on the remote config dashboard, we have a pair of key and value, and it should match exactly the name of the parameter we created in the console, and well, the value that you want to assign. So it can be a Boolean, it can be a string. It depends on what type of parameter you configured in the console. And if you, by any chance, started using, because I know there's a way that you can pull these values from console too. maybe it's here. Yeah. So if you already have like a lot of keys configured and you decide to change and start using in-app default, you can just download the file from here, which avoids you having to write like the XML, manually. So you can just download the default values from the console as well. And yeah, so once I do that, it's available for my remote config object to fetch at any time. So like if the fetch doesn't work here, the object will know which value is the default in order to use it. And the next thing I'm going to do is to implement the fetch configuration. Why is it not? Why is it not? Am I correct? Oh, okay. Like I deleted the equal sign. I wasn't supposed to. So now I'm running this method, which is what's called in the splash view model as soon as the app starts. And this right here, don't worry about it. It's just that I created with performance monitoring, another Firebase product. I just wanted to measure how much it would take to fetch and activate like the response from the server. And then I created this trace, which reports to performance monitoring console, but it's not related to remote config at all. So don't worry about it.
That's actually nice. I need to start doing that.
Yeah, it's actually, maybe I can come back at some point and talk about performance config, performance monitoring. Oh my God.
I mean,
great.
I'm all about Firebase stuff. I mean, and if you want to do also the machine learning kind of thing, if we still have the machine learning part. Yeah,
we do have ML kit, but I need to learn about that more too. But definitely a good idea. Yeah. So now that we already configured our object, we can call fetch and activate. You can also do it individually, like we have only the fetch method and the activate method. The difference is that you can fetch it, but like have it in your object, but it's not yet available to be used in the app. And once you activate it, then it's propagated to your host location. So you can do this in different moments. It allows you to find out when is the correct moment to apply the changes in your app, because, well, if the idea is to make the most optimal experience to your user, you don't want to like maybe change the value of a feature toggle while the user is actually using that feature. So you can fetch these values, you have those in your object, but maybe you want to activate it in a suitable moment for your users so they don't have a terrible experience. In my case, there's no difference because I want to do this as soon as the app launches. Like it's the very next thing I'm going to do, as we're about to see, is to use this value. So I'm just using fetch and activate because there's no like different moment that I would like to do so. Okay, so back to splash view model. So the next thing is I open the task screen, which is the screen that it's being shown right here. I just made this this if to see if I already have a user registered to my application. I'm using Firebase authentication to this, and if I already have a user, then I just load all the tasks and open the task screen. This one. Okay, this one, task screen. Okay, so I have a lazy column, and I don't know if I should go into specifics of like Compose, because I believe this is like things that people who watch your lives are very like they know a lot of Compose, but tell me if you want me to like go deeper in any concept.
I don't think anyone will complain.
Okay.
Let's put it that way.
Okay, so I have this lazy column here, which would be like if we were thinking back when we used to do things with XML like 25 years ago. I'm kidding.
I feel older than I already feel now.
Well, I did use XML for a long time too, so I know how you feel.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, it would be a recycler view when we would have XMLs, and then I'm loading the list of items, and each one of these items is going to be composed as a task item, which is another composable function. This composable function, it builds this UI we're seeing right here. Like each item is going to be a card, and I'm going to have a row with.
Hi, everybody. I'm wasting jokes because my mic is muted. Thanks, Sebastian.
Yeah. No, it's not me. It's OBS. It's not my fault.
At least I'm missing Marina.
Oh my God, I just made the best jokes ever. I don't know how I'm going to recover from that. I wish people had listened.
Folks, you will never know the greatest jokes we just did. Sorry.
So back to the technological part of this. Yes, back to the studio. Back to the real stuff. Where were we?
Yeah. Is there a way we can know where exactly the stream stopped? Because I don't know if like people are
pretty much when I said it, like just right at that point.
Okay, so
you didn't want to spoiler the next part on the list item.
So I came back to the test screen.
Yes.
Okay. Is my screen being shown on the
Yep.
screen? Okay, great. So yeah, this is again the list where I can put all the items, and what I need for each item. And this is the composable function that creates each one of the individual items. And for each one of these items, I need to know the list of menu options that this item has, which now is going to change a little bit, because before it would be just like get all the enum options. But now we need to do some logic to know if we are going to remove the edit task button from the menu or not, because what we want with remote config is to edit right here. So the first thing we need to do is we need to retrieve the options, which is here, and the options are being loaded in my tasks view model. It's just a mutable state and of a list of strings. Each string is an option in the menu. And right now it's just using this this function right here. I have an enum with all the possible menu options. And I have this get options, which is basically returning all the options in the enum. But what I want is to load these options based on if I have or not the edit icon. So let's add a Boolean value as a parameter. And then it can, so the logic is if I have the edit icon here in the item, then I won't have it in the menu. So we can now add this if right here. So if the action is not edit task, I should add it, and if it's edit task, I can only add it if I should show the edit option. Okay. Now back to the view model. Instead of using this, I'm going to send the has edit icon value. And this value, I'm going to retrieve from the configuration service, which is the file we were just at.
Okay.
So once again, I have all the values ready to use because I fetched and activated them all, and then I'm just retrieving them from the object. So retrieving it as a Boolean because it's the type of information that I have. And back to the view model. So I'm just fetching from the configuration service if I have the edit icon or not, and then filtering the options of my menu based on having or not the edit icon. And
you're also putting it in there's like a mutable state of.
Oh yeah, because I'm also going to need this information on the screen. So the screen will be the test screen will be observing the changes on these multiple states to know if it should show the icon here or not.
Okay.
So I need to know two things: if I have an icon or not, and the list of options. All right. Where were I? Where's the screen? Jesus, I'm completely lost. Okay. So back to the screen. Now I have the edit icon, the has edit icon boolean, and the options. And I'm going to pass both to the composable function that creates my item. So now it's time to uncomment this part. So I want to create an icon button, which is going to have this little edit icon as the resource. And when I click on this icon, I call this onEditClick method that's also being passed by the screen. And that's going to call the tasks onEditClick. And I'm going to wrap this icon button inside the has edit icon boolean, right? Because I only want to show it if in my remote config I am allowing the app to show it. And the drop-down context menu is another composable function that is meant to create this menu right here, and it takes the options in order to display them there. So from the tasks point of view, we have done everything that we needed, as far as I can remember. Well, let's see. I can only see if I did everything I needed by running. Yeah.
The best debugging tool.
Yes.
Print line and just run the app.
Yeah, it's the best and the most scary one, to be honest.
True story.
So it's still like this, right? It's still adding task for here because I'm still using the default value. Oh, no, let's do the tricky thing. Fingers crossed. So let me add a new value. I'm going to create a new condition. And for now, let's do a test. I want to do a test. So I'm going to enable for iOS. Let's see if it does it correctly. So platform, I'm going to select iOS, create condition. And for iOS, it's going to be true. And I'm going to publish. So it should remain the same in our app.
Oh, look at that. There is like an orange banner that says publish changes, Sebastiano. Did you see that?
I wonder what this is.
Nope.
Okay.
Doesn't work on my computer.
Yeah, that rings any bell. No, eh?
Maybe next time you should turn your computer off and on again. It usually solves everything. Okay, so we publish it only for iOS, and we're loading the app again one more time. And okay, it worked. Jesus, help me now. It has to work.
Fingers crossed.
Do you need us to do the sign of the cross or something?
Yeah.
We went very religious all of a sudden. I like the fact that, you know, when you do programming at some point, you just want to like a connection with a god, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, well, desperation.
Let's see.
You know.
Let's go.
Okay, so I'm now creating a conditional value to enable for Android platform. I'm publishing it. And as this app is in debug mode and it allows me to refresh all the time. Oh, boom.
Victory. Love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
And it disappears from the menu.
Nice.
Nice, right?
Yeah.
And the clicks
So
working. Important.
If I remember correctly, you just need to relaunch the app, right? Because if you are in debug mode, when you launch the app, the service goes up and we fetch the data again, right?
Yes, exactly. This is only possible because I did configuration service, because I did this. I changed the minimal fetch interval in seconds to 0 when I'm in debug mode.
Okay.
Because then you would check that the last fetch that I did wasn't like in the minimal space, the minimal interval, and it wouldn't fetch if I didn't have those lines.
So just to give other people an idea, so if we don't do in production would work slightly different. So right, you wouldn't be able to see the new value right away, right? There is a caching time.
Exactly. And I think in production, if I'm not wrong, is 12 hours, if I'm not wrong. Like between the default minimal fetch interval, it's 12 hours, if I'm not wrong. And you can change that for like another value that makes sense, just not 0.
Yes.
But
1?
No, I think it's in seconds, Sebastiano.
Oh,
Well, I mean,
minus 1, sorry.
Yeah, you can change it to 1 second, but I'm pretty sure, as Marina said, at some point Firebase is gonna say, computer say no, and that's it. Computer says no, Sebastiano, stop fetching things.
Firebase is
nice to have.
Is gonna send the billing police with like a big billing thing. It's like, yeah, it's $500,000. Thank you.
No, I don't think they are charging you. They're just stopping you. But this is some detail that I want to say. From experience, you need to be aware of this kind of caching, because QA people and product people are gonna just
It's broken.
just gonna harass you. Constantly.
It's broken.
It's broken. Working, because they all talk like that, things like so. And then you're like, did you reinstall the app? Did you clear the cache? So you need to put them in condition to force the refresh, and most of the time it's just like punching the app in the face and removing everything from the cache. So that also works. But they need to be aware from a product point of view. They need to be aware that users won't have the value home right away. So it's just a bit of coordination. But I love it. It works. I like
Very
it.
good point.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
been there, done that.
But the problem is that at some point you reach a point in your career where you need to face the fact that you need to interact with product people. Right, so it's you are more than just like a keyboard monkey. If you want to be a bit more in your career, you need to communicate this kind of stuff. So some technical detail that it's okay for you, it's like a naive thing for you because it's in the documentation. We all knew, right, that it was 12 hours. So how are you surprised? So you need to present the tool in a way that everybody's on board and they know the caveats and they know
Are you maybe saying that talking to your colleagues is not a bad idea?
Well, okay, so I don't want to go that far, like talking to people. I mean, I didn't go to engineering to actually deal with people. I was more like, just give me a cave with a Wi-Fi connection and a laptop and that's it. But jokes aside, no, I mean, it's okay if you don't want to deal with that. Somebody in your team is gonna do that, and it's probably gonna be good for their career. So, think about what could you do to actually be more useful than just coding. We're pretty much more than programmers, but I like this.
Yeah, it's a very good reminder. Like we should pay attention to what happens after we deliver code to other people, right? Because it saves everyone's time. It saves the time of people going back to you and saying, well, this is not working, and then try to figure out what the person means, because this person is usually not involved in the coding process. So it's going to take some time for you both to realize what's going on. So yeah, definitely a good thing to keep in mind.
It always happens when you hand over this to the QA people, right? The QA team is the last chance for you to avoid production's fuck ups, like in a major way. But they also need the tool, right? Eventually you are gonna build some debug menu. And I'm always saying, yes, a debug menu, everybody needs a debug menu, but then you need to ship the app on, and usually it's like, if build config debug, show the debug menu. And then you realize, okay, but now we need to put this thing on the Play Store because we are testing subscriptions, right? So we need a production build, but we also need a set of people that can access the debug menu. So how do you do that? Well, you do it with remote config, because eventually you started building this cohort for people, right? So we were doing when I was working with Joseph Sebastiano last year, we were actually doing the beta program using Firebase Remote Config. Because we were shipping an app, but there were some people that were seeing a different app, right? Because we were able to group them, cohort them in a way that like they were getting new featured, or they were getting like new stuff ahead of time. They were kind of beta testing it in production because YOLO, but they also were getting like a free subscription for some time, because at that.
So out of curiosity, how did you create this cohort? Like by email address? Can you do that, or?
We were using build numbers, especially like we were using a lot of demographic, like in a geography kind of thing. So we are only testing in UK, or you're only testing in Australia. Because you pick your country that makes sense to you, and then you can with Firebase you can pinpoint like a build, and you can say, okay, so this build is the one that, and then with Play Store the pipeline is always a bit tricky, so you need to understand that you are overriding versions and things like that, but you can pinpoint the version. Or something that we were doing, some versions were actually we had like a tag in a version name, and then we were pinpointing those specific versions. It was, you need to think about it a moment. It's just like a designing exercise how you want to do it. But we could do it with Firebase, and it was incredibly useful. And from a product point of view, it was very empowering for them, because make no mistake, there is nothing more fulfilling for some non-technical person to actually flip a switch and something on the app changes, and they're like, fucking magic.
Now I'm a developer.
No, it's like, but that's the thing, because I'm a very practical person, and I work a lot to make myself non-necessary when I work. That it's the opposite of job security, basically. But this is the way No, but the idea is that if I can make myself non-necessary, I can go on holiday.
That's true.
So the idea, the idea that I'm not the single point of failure, or I'm not the only person that can do that, or if it's something that a non-technical person, an engineer, can do, let them, right? So you move into like empower people instead of, let's rely on the nerds, because again, you don't want to talk to people, right? So I don't want to talk to people, so as fewer as possible. But jokes aside, that was one of the winning points, because now you have your product manager that can do things, right? So they can plan, they can schedule release, they can turn things on and off. Somebody in the chat, and Sebastiano replied to them, suggested one of the use cases was like enabling a feature for a specific season of the year, right? Like some Christmas stuff or summer stuff.
Yeah.
You don't need an engineer for that. You just need to plan for that, and then the right product people can flip the switch.
Yeah.
And so that's the beauty of it.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. I'm going to get this after, like, when the video is out. I'm going to take this and send to the whole Firebase team. Like, look, this is great.
No, but
no, it's great. It's great.
Sebastiano knows that I'm a huge fan of this kind of stuff, because I'm not a UI person. I'm more on the backend side of things, tooling, that this is, developer satisfaction kind of thing. But I'm also a product person when it comes to this kind of decision, right? And that's why we were laughing on Twitter about my opinion versus your opinion, because so a few years ago I was at a Firebase Summit in Berlin, and there was one speaker, I think it was from a newspaper. And he was talking about analytics at the time. So they introduced analytics, and they were gathering a lot of information, and everybody had the access to the information. That was one of the things, right? Everybody could access the Google Analytics information. And he said something like, if you have data, and you come to me and you say, oh, this is the data. The data is actually telling us that this feature is shit or people are loving it. We go with the data. But if you only have an opinion, we go with my opinion because I'm the CEO. And, that sounds harsh. And I was like, I love the guy, but but because I'm extremely close to that kind of mindset, right? So if you only have opinions, then you need hierarchy, right? You need chain of command. You need people that at some point take a decision, and that's it. So we are not a democracy. We are not a family. We are a company. You know what I mean, right? I mean, this is like a business, so we need to run it as a business. But when you have data, you are actually giving people the power
to decide,
to steer the boat, right? Because they just need to lobby for what they think that is right, and they can prove it because they have a data, right? So I mean, just to give you an example, we ran an A/B test on our Code with Italian Twitter account for the bloody bio on Twitter. Like the bio on Twitter, there is a tool that you can run A/B test on that to actually measure which Twitter profile gives you more engagement.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's all fun and games, but the sentence that we picked sucked big time. We went for something a bit more, like, what? But it turns out that actually it's driving in users. So it's nice, and it's affordable. It's something that you can get people on board very easily. And
it's something that the thing I love the most is that, as you said, it's like giving people the power, and they're not even aware of it, which is actually something great, because as users, like standing on the other side of the tool, when we are using a tool, we don't always want to like be giving ratings and like describing feedbacks, this kind of stuff. If we were to do this to every single tool that we use every single day, that would not we wouldn't have time to do so. So at least if we're doing this like the way we're showing right now with A/B tests and in this case remote config, then we're giving the power to people, and they don't have to do anything other than just use the app. They just have to use it, and they will help improve the experience without even knowing it, which is great.
And one use case that I loved, because Sebastiano is poking me with anecdotes time, but one of the use cases that I loved during my career using tools like remote config was the fact that not everybody had the same app.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have feature flags, you have A/B tests, so you basically reach a point where you have like 5 versions of your app in the wild. Maybe it's one APK on the Play Store, right? Yeah. But everybody's seeing something slightly different that is tailored for them.
Yeah.
They don't even know. Why? I mean, eventually they figured it out because we were also A/B testing pricing. So you will have like, oh, why my app is cheaper than your app, my friends, because they always talk like.
Because they're in the billionaire bucket.
Yeah.
Well, you are not in the billionaire bucket, but it's, you can't complain. You have like the iPhone app was always more expensive than the Android app for some reason. Well, for some reason, if you have
Who knows?
if you have like a 1,200 euros phone, and on the other side there is like a 200 euros Xiaomi, pretty sure that there's gonna be a different pricing for this shit. So, but I like the fact, you know, that you are running experiments and it's so easy to do. You just need to build the app in a way that is A/B testable, feature flagging, and the beauty is that it's also a team building exercise, because now you have to coordinate with the rest of the team, right? You can't actually just go down, take a ticket on Jira and say, I'm going to build this. You know, when you start doing feature flags, first thing that you ask when you are doing some planning is, are we feature flagging this?
Yeah.
How do you imagine it if we need to feature flag this thing tomorrow?
Yeah.
Do you think that at some point we're going to feature flag this? Do we want to A/B test this? And, you know, that's the difference from somebody that is just a programmer and somebody that is a bit more like product curious, at least I would say. So
I love the definition of product curious.
well, a bit, because, you know, I don't want to. I want to say product oriented because sounds weird, but that's the idea. Why? I mean, I always talk about this stuff. What are the analytics? Do we have a feature flag? And that's the useful part, right? Because maybe they didn't think about that, right? So because product people or designers, they don't know what we know from a tool point of view, and maybe they didn't think about that. What do you mean A/B test? We can make it larger, bigger, put the icon, take the icon, right? And I was like, oh, can we do that? Yes, we can do that.
Yeah.
And I mean, everybody in the team is going to hate you because now you just created work for the rest of the engineering team, but yeah, fuck them. I like that.
Yeah, we're doing the right thing. That's what matters. Yeah. And on that note, speaking of experiments, should we try to take the rest of the time to do the? Okay, so let's see how we can. There's two ways we can do it. We can either click here or edit and create an experiment from here. So yeah, this is going to be an experiment with the hazard edit icon key to know where is the best position to the edit icon. The app that I'm going to test it on is the Android one that I'm using right now. You can select the percentage of your user base that you're going to expose this experiment to. It's not advisable to like just put 100% of your user base because, well, again, it might you're not sure about this experience yet, right? So you want to start it with a small percentage. I would say something between 5 and 15. I'm going to put then. And we can optionally choose an activation event, which basically means, so everyone who falls into this targeted users. Oh, and there's also this. You can actually select a specific audience to test as well.
Nice. First open. That's the usual, right? So first open. What's first open? Target user based on first app open time.
Yeah, like you want to deliver this experience only to new users or to new users in this time range, like users who are using the app for the first time, like in between
over Christmas.
Yeah, it could be.
Okay,
yeah.
Nice.
So again, you can choose all type of conditions. I'm not gonna use this right now. Cool. And then you choose the activation event. So everyone who falls in the targeted criteria is going to receive this, but not all of them will take part in the final results. Only the ones that have triggered an event, a specific event that you can choose or not. It's optional. Well, I'm going to use the session start because I want everyone who who's on the target users, everyone who's simply starting the app, I want to see if they're going to click on the edit icon or not. It might be because it's not exposed enough for them.
Okay.
But the goal that I have, and now this is where we need to do a little bit more of programming again, because what's my goal here? Okay, so I want everyone who is using this app and falls into the targeted criteria to be part of the experiment results. But what event is going to be the main event, the main metric that's going to tell me which version of the app is the winner, the leader in this? We can add different type of metrics because, of course, like we must have one winner, but we can measure different types of things during the experiment days. So we can see which version has less crashes, which version made the users use the app more often by checking the retention, either like daily retention or weekly retention. But in my case, I want something very specific, and this is something you should always try to brainstorm when you're creating an experiment. Like, what's the goal of this? You need to have it very clear so you can interpret the results in a good way, right? So my goal here is, I want to know who is which version is making users edit my tasks more often, because my guess right now is they're not seeing the edit option. They're not guessing because it's hidden in a menu.
Okay.
So what I did, I have this in the tasks view model. When the user clicks to edit the task, before I open the edit screen, I am logging an event to analytics. And I think Ivan is clapping.
Yes.
Ivan is getting very excited about this.
No, because I was like, okay, but how is she gonna do? She needs an analytics event. Bam!
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, so because you want to know when they edit, but they can edit through the icon or they can edit through the menu. And now we want to know which version is actually generating more events.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So we are logging this, and we want to know which version is going to log more of this edit task click. And keep in mind that when you add an event to an app, it's going to take up to 24 hours to show up in the events menu in the analytics dashboard. So I created this event like on Monday just to make sure I would have this event to show right now. But
you're too prepared for this. You're too prepared for this. I would have been like, oh, I forgot to do it. So just imagine it's there.
Imagine there is an event here, because we are savages while she's a professional.
Yeah, you can tell.
No, it's just that I just wanted to make sure like everything would be ready.
Savages. I imagine Marina was like, so you didn't prepare for this? No, you savages. I love it. Okay, thank you. Thank you for the event. Okay.
Yeah. So now I have the event.
The menu is gonna just give me again a quick look to the drop down menu. So what do we have there? So we have the events. The one in the primary metric that you showed. I didn't.
Here?
I was too slow. So you have events, but there is also other stuff there, right?
Sorry, I think I don't follow your question.
If you click the primary metric, Ivan wants to see what other things you can pick as a metric.
Oh, okay. Here. So you can see which version is generating more revenue. There are different kinds of revenues here.
And you can pick the primary metric and the additional metric. So those are the same. Oh,
yes.
Okay. Fantastic.
So like this is going to tell me which one is the best version to my goal, which is make the user edit more. But there are some extra information that might help me decide because let's say like, okay, now users are editing more, but they're not using that more. Well, it doesn't make sense. I'm just creating a hypothetical situation here. Like, even though you have a winner, you might want to check if it's not affecting any other measurements you have in your app before rolling out to 100% of your user base, right? So these metrics help you evaluate everything related to that build, not only the goal that you're trying to find out, if that makes sense.
So for example, the edit feature might be a premium feature, and making it more front and center might drive more people through the upgrade funnel, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so after we do that, we have the baseline, which going to be false, the default value that we already have. And we're going to have a variant, which is going to be tested, which is going to be true. Okay. We can also combine with other parameters. I don't have any other parameter created in the remote config dashboard, but if you do so, it's important to keep in mind, like, is it actually useful to measure two different things at the same time? Because if they're very different things, you might not know if users are like achieving this goal because of one parameter or the other parameter. Like, there's no way you can be sure about it. So try to think of your use case. Like, if your use case is I want to test a new color in the app, then it might make sense to have like a background color and a font color, and then you're gonna have to change both parameters for each variant of your app. Otherwise, you risk like having colors that don't overlap well with each other. So in these cases, it would be very recommended to have more than one parameter. But keep in mind, is this really necessary? Because otherwise, again, you just risk making an experiment that's not going to add you any value. Because at the end, you're going to be like, okay, users clicked in this version, but why? Is it because it's more colorful? Because the icon is not hidden? Because, you don't really have a way to know.
You have partial information, and you can get a decision like that's like meaningful.
Exactly. So like A/B experiments are a very powerful tool, but if you think through it, like that's when what Ivan said before takes part. Like you also need to have a product mind, not only an engineering mind, to think what your goals are and how you can measure this in a way that's not going to confuse you more than actually help you, And in the end, you can adjust the weight. So from that 10% of your user base who's going to take part on the experiment, how much would fall in each one of the variants that you created. Recommended is half-half. Then you can review it. So we have the draft of the experiment, and we can also add test devices just to make sure the experiment is taking effect. So how do we add a device? We need to have a token. For that, in this view model, what did I change on this view model that's telling me? Anyways, so when I start Splash, I don't know if you remember, there was this.
Oh, here you go.
Remaining. Mm-hmm. So as soon as my app starts in my first view model, I am logging the token of my Firebase installation, so I can tell the A/B experiment that this specifically device, I want to receive this version of the. This is just a test device, right? So it's very helpful if you have like QA testing, these people testing, like, for this specific device, I want to test this specific version variant of my experiment. So let's run the app one more time and look for the token so we can register. Okay. Let's look for token. Jesus, this is just too much.
Oh, here you go.
Okay. Token. Yeah, it's a big one. I know you were all wondering. It's a big one.
It's like it's gonna be like 1, 2, 3, 4. Nope.
No.
This is secure.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty solid.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically here we can add like a test device that is gonna be for sure getting the variant that you want, basically. Yep. Okay, so I imagine something, the QA team is gonna have 2 devices, and it's manually adding them on the dashboard, but after that, then we can be sure that one device is gonna be A group and the other device is gonna be B group. Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm gonna give this device the baseline. I can change it afterwards. You know what? Let me do different. I'm gonna give it variant A. I'm gonna save it. And before I start this experiment, let me go back to the configs. change it to not enable it for Android anymore. Okay, let's run it again. Okay, so
nice.
you see
the icon is gone.
It's back. But now I'm going to go to the A/B testing menu. There's a draft here. Once again, I have this this test device that is set to use the variant A, which is back to having the button.
The icon.
And let's start the experiment. Well, this I haven't tested before, so I'm not sure if it's going to take effect like instantly. We're gonna find out that together.
It's one way to one way to know.
No, yeah.
Okay.
I think
it's taking a moment.
Yeah, I think it's gonna take a moment. But
can you clear the cache? Like can you wipe the?
Well, I can actually.
I'm just guessing.
I wonder if the caching is happening on the server side rather.
I think it's either it's pushing the backend is pushing or not, or
like that you wouldn't have a way to know, I guess.
No.
Yeah, but my guess is it takes a little bit.
A moment.
Yeah. Let's run again. Yeah.
Fighting against the cloud live on Twitch. We picked a tough job.
Yeah. But anyways, this is how it works. And of course, since we just started, we can click on the A/B testing menu. It's under Engage and be observing like all the results. I wish we had some results to like show here, but it takes like, even though the first results start to arrive in like 24 hours, and I think we can go back to this. Even though the first results start to arrive in 24 hours, it's recommended to not take any decisions in at least like allow users to take some time to actually generate enough data to do so, because well, imagine it's a to-do list app in this case, right? So it's possible that I just opened it to like check something or add a new task. It doesn't mean that I didn't add it because I couldn't find the button. It might have other reasons behind it. So allow your users to have enough time to use your app so you can actually have accurate data about what you're trying to find out, if that makes sense. So yeah, after about, I don't know, 1-2 weeks, like allow some time and then monitor. You can use the A/B testing dashboard to monitor the results and see which variant is driving more to your goal, the goal that you defined. And I guess that's it. And one more thing that I didn't want to leave without saying is we now have personalization as well, which is different than A/B testing. And you would create this in the same way that like you go to the remote config parameter, and instead of adding experiment, you add personalization. You can configure the same things, like you configure different variants as we did for A/B test experiment, and you define the goal. And you just run personalization. And Firebase personalization will use machine learning to guess, to understand and learn about each individual user and apply a different variant, a different configuration to each one of them. So it's different from A/B testing, because A/B testing helps you to find out the optimal experience that's going to be applied to all of your user base. It's not individual. Meanwhile, personalization is something that you can set up, and it's going to kind of live there forever and always learn about your users to know what variant would suit more each user's experience.
One of the nice use case that I saw for the personalization machine learning remote config tool was, Sebastiano, something with games. So the thing that we were doing, they were analyzing which of the levels was stopping most of the people. So at some point they realized that, a lot of people weren't finishing the game because one specific puzzle was too much for too many people. So they build it in a way that after a certain threshold, that level was basically became easier. So because they wanted to keep you playing, right? Because the whole revenue model was based on ads. So you need to keep playing. And the way that they were doing it, it was like, okay, so if you get stuck too much on this thing, the remote config and the threshold that they were using, they were like, okay, now the level is easier for you. It's the same for Sebastian. It's easier for me because I'm dumb. And eventually, we both keep playing. And I was like, man, this stuff is serious. This is so cool. And because it's impossible to do locally, right? There is no, I mean, you can build like a huge machinery for this, but then you are missing out on all the analytics and the data, and the machine learning can actually give you a hand a lot. And it was fascinating. I was like, man, imagine if you start thinking features in a way, right, like, that they can improve engagement based on a threshold, and then you can set up the threshold, or the machine learning can define your threshold. So it's a fascinating world for me.
Yeah, same. I was pretty impressed, and I know it's a little suspicious for me to say it because, well, I work on Firebase, but I was actually really impressed.
You need to be passionate. You need to be passionate about what you do, right?
Yeah. Well, that's
So
that's
maybe
what I
we
always
can
say.
we can have Ivan saying that because he has no conflict of interest, but he would say it anyway because he really likes that stuff.
Yeah.
This is what we do. We are here to actually enjoy and share the experience. And I like the fact that Marina took the time to build an example that was all very, like, working even against time. Because so I love it.
That was amazing. I mean, the app was already almost like I just had to change it a little bit to.
Let's pretend you built it from scratch. It's fine.
Well, I did build it from the scratch, but like last year. Now I just
see. So you did it last year, knowing that a full year later.
Yeah.
Planning. That's good planning.
Planning ahead.
Oh man. Is there anything else that you wanted to cover? I need to check if we have any questions in the Slido, which I've lost. Yes,
we have one question about. So somebody's asking, what is the size limit that can be sent? And
in the JSON, I guess.
I think that it would make sense in the JSON as a question. So we can take it as the JSON.
I am not sure right now. I need to dig into the documentation because all these little bits of information are there, like the minimum fetch interval, the size, this kind of stuff. But is there a way I can know, like, this person's tweet? Maybe we can tweet about it after. Like, is there a way that I can get this answer to this person?
Yeah, we can absolutely tweet about it, or you can just ping us on Twitter. We'll retweet the answer or something. So people keep an eye on our Twitter and Mastodon.
Okay. So I'm going to find this information in the documentation by tomorrow, I promise. And then
it's all right. Thank you. Okay, we're a bit over time, so I think it's time to wrap things up. After this, as usual, for the people that are in the Discord, we're gonna have the clickbaity thumbnail making process. Marina, if you want to join, you're more than welcome to. I mean, Ivan, leave us with another anecdote. No, I am joking.
No. Basta, too many, because otherwise it sounds like I want to apply for some DevRel position at Firebase. It's not like that. But I definitely love the tool. So that's an actual truth. Again, Sebastiano, if you allow me to thank you everybody for the support. I remind you that if you get us at some conference, you get stickers. I'm personally not going around much, but Sebastiano is always traveling, so chances are
Not as
that,
much as here, but if you find me, I will probably have stickers with me.
you can get the stickers on our coffee page, and those are gonna found and support us for sending the free stickers to the giveaway winners. Again, you can get some pin, you can get the keychain. We also have a YubiKey if you are like keen on security.
I think your audio just got out.
Ciao. Anyway.
Or
can you
my
hear me?
computer's audio just got out. I don't know, either one. Something is just broken.
I am listening to both of you. Like I can hear both of you.
I cannot hear anything anymore, so I'm just gonna assume that you're saying bye.
Yes, yes. Sebastiano can hear
Yeah,
us.
I think,
can hear
Mark,
you.
I think it's
So,
my computer. I heard a
Yeah.
pop and then nothing else.
That's it.
So,
Marina, I'm gonna.
it's a curse! It's a curse!
Sebastian, it's not a curse. It's
Okay,
just that you
folks,
touched
I'm gonna
many
try and
buttons.
fix this and then see you in the after show.
All right.
So, thank you.
I
for
cannot
being
believe
with
it.
us, Marina.
Thank
If you thought this will be like reasonably organized.